Should we Justin do this?
I'm on that meeting. I know from experience, never volunteer.
Are we ready?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, so let's. Start the recorder. Say it again. Did you start the recorder? I didn't. Do I push record? All right. Then I'd like to call our meeting to order for the Friends City Planning Commission. This is May 18th, 2023. Our first order of business is the public hearing for accessory dwelling unit code text amendments. We have nobody for public comment.
That makes
So-
it easy. You still have to open and close it, but you can do that after I read my, go through the staff report. You can open and close it.
Then I'll open it.
Unless Santini wants to say something, I mean, she is a resident, but
All right, so then we're opening up the public comment. Any comments?
usually just let me go first.
Okay.
Read through my stuff and then open and close. That way if the public is here, they can hear what is going on and then they can comment on it.
Good point. All right.
Okay, before I get started, all of you have a form like this. We're gonna start doing this every meeting. That's how Suzanne wants to do it. So you'll see that every time. You can just sign and date it and then leave it here. I will make sure it gets back to Suzanne and you can get paid. Okay, so first item of business today is the accessory dwelling units. We talked about this last time, so I'm not gonna go through the whole background. You were all here and saw that, you probably remember the discussion about the owner occupied and whether or not to include that. And so we're looking at some other ways to kind of buckle down on the accessory dwelling unit so they're not used as a duplex. And by the way, the city council did approve the changes we talked about last time. So those are in code now. Last time we talked a little about definitions. Rich brought that up, and that was a good thing to talk about because when I looked at our definition, I realized that we needed to add some things. So I took out the is subordinate in size to the primary residence and contains. I had to take out the subordinate in size because state code says we can't regulate based on the size of the primary dwelling. So we'll just take that out. I'm pretty sure that 99.9% of them will be smaller in size. But anyway, we have to do that for state code to make it consistent. Then I also just changed the wording to make it adding that it has a living and sleeping areas. It should, even if it's a studio apartment, it should have those things. Take out that apartment can be located above a garage, barn, or a separate unit on a grade or in a basement. Because I think that what I explained about accessory, like EADUs versus IADUs kind of gets into that. So the definition of accessory apartment is what we have a definition of in our code, and that's from our older versions. It's used in several instances, and I didn't want to go through and change everything, so I just said that it's interchangeable, so that the two terms mean the same thing. Accessory apartment means an accessory dwelling unit, and vice versa. There are two classifications of ADUs: accessory dwellings built within the footprint of the primary dwelling, such as basement apartments, are referred to as internal ADU, IADU. Dwellings are dwellings that are detached from the primary dwelling, such as those located above a detached garage or as a separate unit on grade, are referred to as external ADU. I thought we had the clarification between the two things in our code, but we didn't, so I wanted to make sure that was in there somewhere. Then the other change that I'm proposing is in the IADU code. I looked at, I don't know how many cities accessory dwelling unit codes, probably at least 10. And most of them are out of compliance, so we're leading the pack here, so we're killing it. But I was really hoping to see something about like front doors and trying to think of language that we could add, and I just couldn't come up with anything, but I liked what was already in the state code, and I just wanted to copy that, part of their definition of internal accessory dwelling unit. So that's what I added here. The IADU shall be designed in a manner that does not change the appearance of the primary dwelling of a single family dwelling. And I think that makes a really good case that a duplex obviously does not look like a single family dwelling. So I think that's good. I'm happy with that. We have before that minimizes any changes in, and I think we'll just use state code. It does not change the appearance of the primary dwelling. So that's what I'm proposing. That's it for me.
So should I open up for public comment now?
Yes, this is the perfect time.
Perfect, then let's open it up for public comment. Any public comments? All right, we're gonna close public comment. Then should we move on to comments from the commission or discussion?
Changes look good. I did have one question under the accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah.
Bullet point 5 under section 2.
Sure.
My recollection, wasn't there something about not limiting size, or is that just internal?
Just internal.
Okay, that was the only thing I caught when I read this. I was like, oh, we were talking about this, but I couldn't remember. So, yeah, I'm good with these changes as suggested.
Yeah.
Any other comments, thoughts?
I make a motion that we forward with a positive recommendation to the city council for approval as written.
I second it.
Sure, okay, then let's go.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous.
Okay, easy.
All right, moving on to the next agenda item. We have a public hearing for the general plan updates. Katie, would you like to provide your report?
I really don't have a report for this because it's just gonna be more of a discussion. And if the public was here, they're welcome to give their input, but they're not. So we'll just have our own discussion. Okay, I looked at several general plans for different cities. And I texted you to let you know that my favorite was the Dinwiddie plan. Did anyone else have a chance to look at any other plans? Did you find any that you liked? No?
Not more than Nibley.
Not more than Nibley. Yeah, it was a fun time on the internet trying to find. Some of the cities are really hard to find their plans, and then once you find them, there were some that really needed to be updated. I think I found one that was last updated in '99. So, yeah, crazy. So yeah, anyway, I guess I wanted to first talk about the survey because I do really want to get that out in the next couple of weeks. We're going to have an open house coming up for, there's a park that's being built in Wild Willow. It's behind Wild Willow, behind Birch, and between that and the Summit Haven neighborhood. Open space that has been put aside to be a park for 20 years.
Birch or Oak Lane?
Oak.
Yeah.
Thank you, it's oak. I know, it's oak. So it's between those areas.
It's the bike.
It's gonna be part of it will be a bike park. So we're gonna have an open house, I'm hoping next month, that's the plan. I'll just talk about it now. I'm hoping we'll have an open house next month for the first hour of the planning commission meeting. We won't really be talking, we'll just be having the public here. You don't have to worry about talking with them as much as me and Scott and the trail contractors and people that we're working with. But that will probably be the first hour, will be an open house, that's what we're planning. And I think that'll be a great time to talk to people about the general plan. So I think if we have our survey sent out by them, we can interact with people as they come in and let them know what we're doing with this general plan, but we really want their input. So I would like to get this survey kind of figured out tonight, and that's my top priorities for the meeting. So, okay, first off, I didn't put this in Dropbox, but there was a survey I received from the state this week, and it talked about challenges of growth and how the state has more people that want to live in Utah than there are houses. And so that's making homes really expensive. And I think we've all seen that in the last few years, the prices have gone up a lot. And so one of the focuses of the state legislature is how to increase the housing supply in the market. And so they sent these surveys out. And this one, I liked how they had a visual with it. And so I'm thinking maybe something like this could be in our survey, where we give people options. We know that we will be growing. We have growth projections that I'm going to get from Summit County. We know we're growing. Where do we want the growth? And so giving people an option of, here's some choices. Do you want it where we already have infrastructure, where we already have a town, we want to fit more in there? Or would we rather have people going out onto the outskirts of town? There's pros and cons both ways. Or do you want people everywhere? Do you want them outside of town and in town? That's going to help housing prices, but you're not going to have the open space left. Or the fourth option is to just restrict housing as a strategy to slow growth. And again, there's pros and cons to that. So it's nice because our neighborhoods will stay the same. Our city won't change as much, but we lose some control on that. We probably won't have as much say in where we have open space. And then housing costs are still going to be expensive, and they probably will be. I think honestly, in my opinion, no matter what we do, housing costs, we're not going to be able to change that too much. But I think, there's some things we can think about with growth is coming, where would we prefer to have it? And I'd love to have the public input on that at least. So what's everyone's thoughts on that? I think that's a really good, important question for the general plan.
So I just have a couple questions. So the
Yeah.
2016 plan was something that the city did back in 2016, right?
We did.
And then the other one is that your proposed survey
Yeah,
that
so
you're planning on giving?
I took our survey, so there were a couple in Dropbox. So there was this one, the town planning survey, it was just a generic one that somebody gave it to us. I found it in my archive files and I thought, okay, there's some good questions here. This one, the other one that's up on the screen, was the results of the survey from 2016. But again, we were able to get outside help when we did that last general plan update. And so somebody that does these surveys a lot put this together for us. And I think it's a good place for us to start again.
I just think it's a little long,
Yeah, I think it is a lot. And so maybe there's some questions
but maybe
we can cut out, and that's what, yeah.
Because looking over the 26 survey, there were a lot of didn't answer, and that one was super long. I was like, well, of course they didn't answer it, they got tired.
What's everyone's thought, like time? How much time do you expect people to put into the survey? Do you want a good turnout? What do you think? How many?
Like top 10, and that's it.
Top 10, okay.
I mean,
5 minutes or less?
Under 5.
Under 5 or less? Just
Yeah,
get
yeah,
something that they could come in, or if you have like an iPad, they could just quick do it.
yeah.
Let's think, what do we need answered?
Yeah, what's the
Before we
most
commit
important?
to-
What are the most important things?
I mean, I think the first,
Like, I think this is important. Where do we want the growth to go?
I like some of the things in here because I think that we have a pretty mixed message on lighting, for instance.
Lighting?
Because I think that's a very big contradiction when we approve hundreds of homes going up the hill and then say we can't have Eve lights. Which I'm a part of, but I'm just saying, like, I look out at Victory Ranch across the valley, like, it doesn't, so, I mean, is that worth not having streetlights? I'm just posing, like,
No, that's a good question. That is a good question. When I first moved here 5 years ago, and it still is pretty dark at night, but it's changed. It's hard to change.
yeah, and I'm not saying that I like or dislike, I'm just saying if we're
Like,
gonna,
where are we gonna?
where are we gonna go with
consistent?
this?
Do we want
Yeah.
streetlights or not?
Do we want housing to grow up the hill that we're all looking at? Because at that point, like, you've sort of taken away from your night sky, and I don't think the Eve lights are the biggest problem there. I think it's just gonna be light pollution in general. So I think that's a big thing. So I think, we have to answer growth and where we want growth.
Yeah.
We have to answer the light thing, seems to be a topic of discussion.
Yeah.
I think the rental issue, like even amongst this group, we're all over the board. So I think like, what community direction do we want? And how does that align with housing planning? And then I think we look at the other expendable items such as like parks, trails. Where do we want to be focusing our money at? What is the bang for the buck that the community is expecting? And those are like the top 5 on mine. You could probably develop several questions on each of those, but that'd be my thought. I personally don't think like 2 pages is unreasonable if you're not willing to give it 10 minutes.
I think we could also have like the short version and then like, hey, if you are interested in providing more input, here's some other questions.
Well, and you've got that at the bottom of page 1, right? Like, tell us what you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe going back a step further, so what worked well from our past city plan?
Yeah, and what did they do about the answers they got?
So I actually wasn't here when I was with the planner. So I just have files that I can look at and kind of guess what they did. Scott was here. What do you think, Scott?
We tried to incorporate some of it, but I don't know how well we did.
Well, I mean, even stepping back from the surveys generally, what were things that were successful in the plan? What were things that didn't work? And are there things that we should change about what happened last time to make this one more effective?
The biggest thing with the plan is it's kind of, I don't know, just a guide almost.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the hard part is everybody says we need to follow this. And when somebody comes to do an annexation, they point out there, you're not following it because you say you don't want to have to go through, you don't want to go here. So I'm not quite sure how to say what worked and what didn't. We got more trails than before, just 10 years ago, the city wasn't even thinking about trails, they didn't like trails. Remember, Buffalo Roof, the developer had to beg and say they're gonna take care of all the trails to even get the city to allow trails, so.
They used to not have the city center zone,
Yeah.
and they made that change. We started to see some things there, not really building too much yet, but there's some projects that are in the works, so. I think it does feed into, we don't have to follow it exactly, but it does give us, my idea is that it gives us some objectives, some plans that we want to work towards in the next 5 years. So I see it as like, okay, what is the vision of the community? Let's try to find what that collective vision is as much as we can. And then here are the goals for each of those areas, and this is what we're going to do to get there. Maybe we don't do anything. Maybe it's just keep doing things the way that we're doing them in some places. But maybe some places we're like, well, we really want to work on this lighting thing, and maybe there's something we can do to be more of a dark sky community. Let's put that into action and work on that. So it just gives us things like a kind of a to-do list.
When is the open house?
It's gonna be probably like June, whatever the 3rd week of June is, Thursday, 3rd Thursday. That's the plan. We have to get a few more things wrapped up, but that's what I would like to do. It all comes together.
And so then as far as tools that we have to achieve it, it's pretty much zoning changes and annexation?
Yeah, we can always do code text amendments. We can always change our code. If there's something in the code that's not getting us to our vision, let's change it. Let's change the code. The city council doesn't have power to make every single decision in the city that you think. If there's a new subdivision that comes in, somebody wants to subdivide their property, and it's the right zoning, it all meets code, they get to do it. It doesn't matter if it's on a hillside, unless it gets complicated with sensitive lands. But if it meets code and it meets zoning, they get to do it. The city council gets to decide on things though, like annexations, code amendments and zoning. If someone asks for a zone change, they have it, planning commission look at the recommendation, and city council gets to decide whether or not we do that. Hopefully with the input of the public, and hopefully looking at the general plan, and does it fit in with that?
And so then realistically, I mean, we have some items in here that we're talking about that are kind of big spends, right? Like acquiring open space. What kind of budget do we have to actually accomplish those things? Because
So acquiring open space is probably not something that we would prioritize in our budget. Instead, we would prioritize incentivizing conservation subdivisions so that there is open space set aside, like Hidden Meadows. That new development, it's 550 acres and 80% of it's open space. We did not pay for it other than working with the developer to agree to some housing in exchange for open space.
But there is a way to protect it.
Right.
There
I
are
mean, because
ways.
your family did.
With Summit County, and so we already pay taxes for that to protect some open space. And the year one is amazing, it's awesome.
So then maybe another question,
Yeah.
this isn't in our town, but so for example, like High Star Ranch, they have a bunch of trails and things that are kind of open space, but they're not really open. So, you know, like this new development, Hidden Meadows, is that actually open space or is it?
Yeah, it's, in the development agreement, it says that it has to be open to the public. And or High Star should be, but that's a whole other discussion.
Okay. Okay, so those are kind of the tools we have to achieve this.
Yeah,
And so then, I guess my question, and where I was going with this is, do we want to ask questions about things that we can't really impact with our plan? Or should we focus our survey on things that we can?
it makes sense to ask about things that we actually can change. We can't ask, do you want to stop growth? There's things we can do to slow it down, but it's.
But even
it's
that,
gonna
can we really
happen.
slow it down because most of the land around here isn't in the city?
Exactly.
And so,
And you probably heard about the West Hills Incorporation. That developer came to Camas, they came to us to ask about annexation first, and we said, no, we're really not interested. And now they're incorporating it, and it's completely out of our hands.
Which is horrible. I mean,
But there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. That is their property right. They have the right to incorporate. And there's nothing that any of us can do about it, because we don't own land over there. At least I don't. So,
well, in regards to your statement though, about asking like, which is a good question, what can we impact? And I noticed on the 2016, they really seem to want, the majority seem to want to enforce like people taking care of their property. Was that something that happened?
I don't think it,
Code enforcement,
So why would, I mean, it was on almost every question.
yeah, I think I wanna say we did start enforcing more. They actually had a planner on staff more after that, because before, we just had a part-time person.
Well, what were they enforcing exactly?
Weeds, garbage, junk, that kind of stuff.
Did they like threaten a fine or?
Yeah, if there was a complaint made, we would go and we'd send a letter saying you gotta do this, this, and this. If it was against code, then we can do that.
that's still our policy, yeah. If there's a complaint made, we will enforce code. But I don't go around and drive around and look for people that are not.
Right, I mean, right. I'm sure it's a neighbor that's saying, hey.
Usually.
Just don't make your neighbors mad.
Stop recording me.
I disagree. I don't like your house plan.
That's fair.
We have the
Okay,
same house.
so let's just kind of look through this, demographics, is that something that we want to take the time of the survey to ask people how long they live here, where they live? Do we care about that, or do we just say,
No,
great, if you're a resident or you live around here, let us know what you think.
yeah.
The only thing I would say is I think age, household, and within the residence is fine, but other than that, because I think that also starts to tell us where our priorities need to be based off age. I think you're gonna continue to see more growth. And that's gonna skew things with parks and all that. I mean, I think that part has got valuable data to it.
So Justin, you were talking about adding a light. you know, do you want to replace something or add it to the list?
I didn't go as heavily through the general 2016 one, just because statistically, like,
No, I'm talking about the general one.
The generic
Do
one.
you want to add that? Because light's not on the generic.
no, that's what I was gonna say, is I think I would take this generic one and, let's just start at the top, like, law enforcement's probably not in the budget, just because I know a little about that. So I don't see us starting a police station
Or
police
fire
department.
protection, like.
Well,
So, I mean, I think there's some of
That's
those,
for the South Summit Fire District,
right,
so it's separate. And police, there has been some discussion about, having a unified police force between Kansas and St. Francis. So, you know.
Honestly, I'm happy to have that conversation because during the winter, I called the police to come to my house
yeah,
at like 1 a.m. and they were in Colville.
Oh,
I had to
yeah.
wait for him to come from.
Well, believe me, I know all about how that works, but
well,
I'm-
and maybe it's worth asking.
maybe we should leave that on there. I didn't mean to make assumptions, but, there's a lot of this stuff that, how satisfied are you with your electricity? Like,
We have no control over that.
zero, right? Like,
Yeah,
I would love.
internet, no control.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think you really could chop this way down, and I'd be happy to print it at home and maybe just send you my thoughts.
Yeah.
If that would save time, but.
Yeah, I think that would be great. This was generic, it is.
But I really do there's a lot of things about this that I like when you go to community future, see whether leadership should encourage or discourage the following, do we want more apartments in the city of Francis? I think that's a legit question.
For sure.
I mean, I have my opinions, but what does the public think? I genuinely don't know.
I think that's a great question, and it kind of goes into the different options.
Yeah.
Do we want it more spread out, or do we want it more condensed in certain areas in a higher density?
Right, because then you start to lure with zoning changes and all that sort of stuff, the future development. I mean, you guys know how this game's played better than I do. So that's why I do think we could print the generic one.
I think we should end it after the second page though.
And then, but I think you're gonna get rid of so much of this. I mean, I realize I'm seeing, is it 3 pages? How many is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just on the first page, I kind of just started the ones that I think are applicable. Recreational facilities like parks and open space and trails, law enforcement, drinking water, sidewalk availability. I am curious if people really want, we can change how we do subdivisions and we can require that if people want to see that more.
They did in 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah, I too am curious. I mean, like I said, I'm not as big of a proponent, but this winter got really tight, which I realize is an abnormality, but.
Yeah. And maybe that's something that we can change in our code. It's in our control. We can change what we require subdivisions to look like.
We should also ask, we're gonna ask about that if people want to shovel their sidewalks.
Yes.
There is an ability that
That's one
goes
of the
with that
things.
too.
If we bring a sidewalk,
That's how.
why have sidewalk, you can't have it during the winter. Kids still walk to school, get to bus stops and things like that, so.
We're gonna have it.
That is a big,
Well, Justin had brought it up last meeting, that it would be nice to have sidewalks. And I think it would be. I mean, and in the 2016 survey, they were all for it.
Yeah.
see, back when, well, 20 years ago, when they said we want 30 feet of asphalt for the road, that's what they said they wanted 30 feet of asphalt for, so that in the winter, we can push the full 30 feet of asphalt, people have still some room to walk on the side of the roads. And yeah, there's some logic to that, but there's also safety issues, kids walking on the side of the road, and things like that, so.
Again, like this year, shoveling sidewalks would have been near impossible because all the stuff from the road get plowed up onto your sidewalk. You have an 8-foot power stone
Well,
shovel.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, that's how it works in Oregon, you're required to
Yeah.
shovel your sidewalk. I mean, whether
Yes.
you're my 85-year-old neighbor or whether you're an able-bodied guy,
That's a cool issue.
it's exactly what it is. And believe me, if you don't do it in certain neighborhoods, that's a problem. So I'm either way. I just think some sort of,
This would be good to see if people want to.
safety system, or at
Just
least
get
finding out the
more
public
awareness.
input, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's up to you. Do we want to take the time to go all the way through this, or do we want to just?
No, I'm just trying to zero in on the important topic. Street condition, I think that's a good one to ask about. Is that something we want to prioritize for our funding? And it is within our control. We can the city council can choose the budget and where it's spent, or they can decide how the budget's spent. Not always how much we get, but how much, where we spend it. Okay, so we're gonna talk about growth, where we want it, how much density we want in certain areas, or what we will allow in the city, like the maximum density people want to see, or formulate some questions about that. And then, curious about the different types of housing people are interested in. I know that there's been kind of a push to have less yard. A lot of people want less yard. So I'm curious about that, especially as people age. We're not gonna have an aging community. I don't know that we need to ask about the demographics, by the way, because I can get all that data from the last census from Summit County.
Okay.
But as our community ages, people here probably are not gonna wanna take care of a half-acre lot and shovel snow as much. They might be more interested in living in a subdivision like Hart, where it's more condensed, there's an HOA to take care of a lot of things, but there's still open space. I don't know, I think it's a good question to ask. So, I think that one, and then we already talked about a lot of these ones. So, I think one good question for me would be like, what do you like about living in Francis? What is important to you about the culture here? What do you want to see preserved?
Well, and that's at the bottom of page 1, right? What are the 2 things? I mean, they can write in what they want.
Yeah. And then 2 things to change. I think that's really good information, and we'll get a wide variety of responses, and we don't necessarily have to have a list. Here's the pre-populated.
Right.
We could put a list in there, or we could just leave it open-ended. So,
I like having a list just because it gets people thinking, but I think we should add the light that Justin brought up to it as well. Whether you take one out or just add it.
yeah. And then under the community character, we don't really have any historic buildings. That's going to be a big part of that survey, and I really didn't understand
Is
why.
it
The Mitchell House, but
the
it's
daughters
building,
of
the DUP building, but the Mitchell House was taken off the historic register because it has structural issues.
is that the brick on the corner?
And I think that's the only, I love it too. I hope that they use the brick for something there.
But that's it,
I
just
think
those
that's
2?
it. I can't think of any other historic structures. I think that's it. So I think that's not even something we can worry about. Not really, as much as I would like to. And we, actually, the city did try to buy the property where the Mitchell House is, but they would not sell it to us. Something we couldn't really control. Okay, yeah, I think, asking about code enforcement, if people want to see more of that, or if they are good with how things are. That would be good information. Maybe not the most important thing to know. I don't really want to ask questions about animals too much. Just like,
I mean,
we already have a pretty good code on it. I think people, for the most part, know what it is, and I hate to make any changes to it. People that have called and asked, hey, can I have a horse in my Wild Willow non-horse lot? It's like, no, sorry, you cannot.
Going back to the lights, we've got a question in there, so adopt and enforce ordinances that protect our dark skies.
Yep,
So we've got that in there already.
yep, let's do
where
that.
at though?
It's on that.
It's page 3 of 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
Community character section.
Yeah.
Mhm. Bike lanes, I don't know, Scott, where we have the 2 main roads through our town are state roads, we really don't have control on that as much.
Why aren't they building a bike path anyway?
They are building a path down 32. So I don't know, it's not worth asking, because I don't know that there's really anything we can do. Unless we want it in new subdivisions, but.
So creating a bike lane would just be about going out and painting it, right?
If the world throws wide,
It has to be a certain width.
yeah, you have to have your lane, plus the space between them, place for the ride.
What road in Francis wouldn't qualify?
Foothill,
A lot of them, Foothill, 1000 East,
Lambert,
Spring Hall Road, you get out further, Lambert Lane,
all the
Majority,
connector roads.
majority.
I guess Lambert Lane isn't that way.
Once you get past where the city limits are, there, so.
What about painting a sidewalk / bike lane in Wild Willow? Would that make any sense? I don't know, I just thought it down.
No, I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't think that it needs to be that case, but
Yeah.
I just wonder if going forward, that's not something that we need to consider.
Well, it's on
And
here, that's why.
if not a sidewalk, then there's spaces where there's the paved walking trail.
Yeah, that could be the question. In new subdivisions, do you prefer a paved walking trail, sidewalk, or nothing?
Or nothing,
Or
or
bike
wider
lane.
roads, yeah,
Something.
I mean, I guess.
You know, because there, you know, we still have, in Wild Willow, we still have a 60-foot right of way. If the city really wanted to go spend the money, we could put curb gutter and sidewalk
On your
all
side,
around town.
a lot of money.
But
Yeah,
the
we
PC PAC is already doing that though. I mean, that's what they've had those meetings for in counties, is to discuss where we want those lanes. And they're paying for it.
Who is?
The PC PAC fund,
Not heard of that.
have you been to those meetings?
Is that the one that has to do with the county doing the bike lane on the
Yeah,
side
that
of
they
32?
ended just in Marion on the way into Camas. They only stopped because they wanted input from the city before they kept going.
Yeah, we've been talking with them, and
Yeah,
they're,
we got that,
yeah,
So we could then put it along the main street in Francis.
yeah, it's going to be along.
Okay,
It's-
so it is
It's coming all the way to this intersection over here.
Okay.
yeah, it'll be,
Next summer, or is it this? It's not this
depends
summer.
on when they can get funding for it, but it would be in the next year or two. But yeah, the county is doing that. So there will at least be a path from this four-way stop all the way down to Oakley, Marion area. Okay.
So it also has fund and actively promote community public art, statues, memorials. Do we want that in there?
We could ask, it doesn't hurt to ask, but it's, you know,
Do we want to ask?
though,
I just
right?
think it's too much.
I think we're pretty small
Yeah.
to be worrying about.
okay,
Those things
Road
and funding
statues.
it.
Yeah,
let's not worry about it then.
We've had people come and say, Candy said we'll do something, they said, no, we don't want to.
I mean, I could see a need for a roundabout on 32, but that's not gonna be us either.
No, that's not our road, it's UDOT. Something we'll have to have on 32 at some point. Okay, trail network, I think that's a good question to ask, and that is in our control. When we do a new subdivision, we can have that be part of the requirement. What about, beautify the community with welcome signs and banner signs? Is that something we want to ask about, or just, nah, not worth it, okay.
I think as we develop maybe more of a business center where that would make sense.
Yeah.
Then absolutely, but at this
We're
point,
not there yet.
yeah, we're not there yet.
And I think that's the same thing with strictly, or adopt and enforce ordinances that require similar looks for business facades.
At this point, we'll take a business.
We already kind of have that, but yeah, if we get a business, that's great. Put a 10. We don't care what it looks like.
Goes back to tax revenue.
Yes, and it's important for the city, so. Okay, and I like the short-term rental question, that is a hot topic, I think it's good to hit those hot topics, short-term rentals, accessory dwellings. Maybe not accessory dwellings, because I don't want to that's too much.
But, and I think we kind of get the answer with the questions about where they want to grow.
Yeah.
And how they want the growth to look.
That's
density.
true, that's true. Okay, and then the growth rate, do we ask about the growth rate? Do you think the rate's too slow, just right, too fast? Is that something that we can control it, but not entirely? Don't even ask,
I don't even.
just say it's coming, where do you want it?
Or how do, I guess my question is, how do you want it? Because I think you're right, it is coming. The value.
Where and
The
how?
value of the land versus the return on investment for cattle is quickly outweighing, or has been for some time, I should say. So, I mean, it's what do you want that to look like?
Okay, I think this is good,
I like it.
I like it too. So I'm I'm going to come up with a survey of questions. I will put it in Dropbox, and I would like you to respond to me individually, so that we're not having a meeting, okay?
Sure.
Perfect. Anything else you guys want to talk about on the survey before we move on?
No, I'm excited for it. I think it's gonna be a good opportunity to get input.
I think so too. All right, so the last thing that I want to talk about with the general plan is I started making some changes, and this is, if it were Katie's general plan, this is what it would look like, and it's not Katie's general plan, so I'm just wanted to, oh my goodness, that's good. Whoa, okay. So, we don't need to take a ton of time on this, but kind of like what we talked about last time with that training, I want to cut out, kind of like the survey, I want to cut out things that are not really gonna help us. And I want to make it so that it's something that we actually use and not too cumbersome. So this is how I envision it. You get to just cut right to the chase. Introduction. This is what the general plan is for. Here's the purpose. Here are the different elements we're going to be looking at. And then here's our mission statement. And here's our community values and vision. I really liked how Nibley did it. One page, here's our vision in one page. And we don't need to go through tons and tons about the vision. I think we answered, the questions about each of these areas, and that helps us come up with the vision in the survey. And then they take this vision and they put it into the framework. So you look at page 22, this one, it says land use on top. They re-highlight the vision for that element, and then here's our goal and here's our principles. I like that layout, and we don't need to talk about, here's all of our zones, and this is what's in this is, the cottage zone, and this is we can find all that in code. I don't think it needs to be in the general plan. If we wanted to do, here's where we are now, we could do like what Nibley did and do the zoning map, like, hey, this is where we are now, this is what our zoning looks like. But I don't think we need to get into exactly what each of those zones can do, because if you read the code, you figure it out pretty quick. What thoughts on that?
Yeah, the simpler the better. Condensed, direct to the point.
Yeah, my goal is like 10 pages would be awesome. I don't know if I can do 10, but if I can do 10, I think I'm pretty happy about that. But that's just me, I'm an engineer, so I always just try to just get to the point. I don't want a lot of language on it, just get to the point. What are we doing? Okay, so the elements, anyway, and then putting a whole bunch of stuff in the appendix the extra stuff, we have the framework, each of those elements, then we have implementation. Here's what we're gonna do. These are the things that we are going to do. Here's the checklist or action plan. And then in the appendix, we can do our acknowledgements, and all of us can have our name in there. And we can have, here's how we did the survey, and here's our questions, and here's our responses. Existing conditions, this is where we are right now. Maybe not, we put that in there. Put in some maps. There might be some maps in the actual general plan, but I can envision some that maybe are not as important to be in the main body. It could be in the appendix. And then the history of Francis, I think that's great and interesting, and I think we could reach out to the Historical Society and ask them to rewrite our history, but put it in the appendix. And I think it's a good thing to think about, but I don't think it needs to be as part of the main document, in my opinion. Okay, so that's kind of the structure that I'd like to use. Here's the introduction that I looked at 10 different general plans and kind of looked at what I liked and didn't like and made it short. And so it just says, we have to do it because it's state law. This paragraph, it's a blueprint and a vision of both, sorry, I'm trying to get this straight. of both short and long-range goals to guide the growth and development of the city. It is an advisory document, so like Scott was talking about, we don't actually have to follow this, but it would be a good idea to follow it. It's an advisory document intended to assist the planning commission and city council in making budget and development decisions. This plan can be flexible to accommodate unforeseen conditions and opportunities. The goals outlined in this plan were created with the purpose of improving the physical environment of the city and the quality of life of existing and future residents. To me, that kind of said it. Is there anything that you guys think I might be missing in that? One reason I really wanted to put that it's an advisory document and it can be flexible is because in Utah, there have been some court cases where they've tried to use this more as like a legal document, and I want to make it clear that it's
A guide.
just a guide, yeah. And then I put in that we should review it annually, and then we should go through and make big changes again in 5 years. Okay, elements of the general plan. I think that this survey will help guide our decisions. We can kind of ask those questions like what's important to you. We have to have the land use and the transportation. I think that parks, urban space, and trails will be one that people are going to be interested in doing. Public utilities like water, sewer, roads, those kind of things might be. And commercial and economic development, maybe that will be too.
Did you say that our goal was to have it rewritten by the end of the year?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have like October fiscal or calendar?
I would like to, so our fiscal year actually ends in June. We started the new year in July, so not fiscal,
Okay, so
so calendar. And I'd like to turn it over to the planning, to the city council, November timeframe. If we can wrap up in October, I think that's awesome. We just tackle a little bit every time. Okay. So I'm thinking those elements. Anyone else want to add anything here right now, or just kind of see where the survey takes us for now? Okay.
yeah.
Okay, the mission statement is what we had before, and I thought it was a good one, and then the mayor told me he liked it and he wanted to keep it, so unless anyone has a problem with that, let's just keep the mission statement the way it is. Okay, and then, I really don't want to go into this too much, but this is kind of where I see us having this page. Here's our vision, it's going to be a one page, here's the elements we're looking at, and this is what we want to, this is our goal, like what we want to see happen in each of these. Population projection, I think that's interesting. I could probably get updated numbers. Maybe that'll be in the appendix though.
Are we on track with that or are we ahead
On what?
with the population?
Okay, let's see.
It's amazing, it's actually pretty
Really
close.
close.
Is that?
Yeah,
I think we're above that, but 3 years beyond it.
we're 3 years beyond it, and by 2030, that's pretty realistic. Yeah. I could definitely see us getting to 2,400 by 2030. Depends on the market, but if things pick back up, that will not be a problem. Does not want to cooperate.
Nope. Smarter than I.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else I put in here, but basically I anyway, we don't need to go through each line of this. It will really, basically I'm just this is an example of trying to cut out some of the stuff that isn't necessary. It's talking about how it was originally settled, and that's good to know, but I think most of us really know about, that much about Francis. Maybe somebody coming here, they can read the history and find out. So, yeah, this is our community. We're kind of a rural, mountainous community, and we want to leave some open space. Here's our annexation policy. I did talk to Suzanne. She came back at our conference and said, we definitely want to have the annexation policy in the general plan. I never got to ask her
Why?
why, because it's in our code. So why do we need it in both places? But it's not a bad thing, I mean, it's good for people to know. You've gotta bring, benefit to the community, the existing residents, if you wanna annex something in. And I think it's true, we probably do wanna focus on growing in our boundaries that we already have versus trying to stretch out farther and farther. Then we have to extend services out to those places when it's more efficient to have them in the middle of the city, in my opinion. Okay. Yeah, and this is the top place I was talking about, like, this is way too much, and the pictures are great, but,
If anything, appendix that.
exactly.
And then you get
If we
reference
wanna
it.
do it.
I mean, I don't have strong feelings either way, I'm just saying, like, it was good, I didn't know that, because I'm not an engineer, but
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be in here.
Yeah. And then, I don't know that we wanna have a goal for each of the different areas. Maybe we do, maybe we do. Maybe that's like, oh, here's our goals for this area, but I think this could all be kind of like, literally one or two pages, yeah, like, short and sweet, and then we're not digging through all this. So if everybody likes that, then that's what I would like to do. And I'm gonna try to make it be like that. Okay, so,
Do you have sections you want us to discuss real quick, or things?
if
we
you
can
have
input?
anything you wanna discuss, let me know. If you've looked at it and you have things that you're like, hey, let's talk about this, great. But,
I read through it and saw the let's discuss and thought, if that's, I mean,
yeah.
if that's what you need, like, if we need to go through goals and talk about that, then I'm game, let's do it, but I think everything's on the right track in terms of shrinking it down, eliminating the sections we don't need, and then, you know, if we need to take small bites to make sure we get through it all, like, I'm happy to.
Are there any goals in this first part that has to do with residential that you don't like encouraging, this is kind of like our conservation subdivision, creative approaches to housing that maintain and protect natural resources and environmental features. That sounds like a good goal to me, why wouldn't we keep that? I think it's kind of hard right now to set the goals because I feel like we just really need that survey. And we can talk about it and we can discuss it, but when it comes down to it, I think that survey might guide it more.
I agree.
So we'll get it next month and then,
I'm hoping to get the survey out in like 2 weeks.
oh,
And then I would like to give people a month to respond, so we might not have it back next month.
so you're mailing it and you're not doing it at the open house?
I would like to hit it in lots of different ways.
Okay.
So I want to make it something that people could do online. I want to have it available at the open house in paper or like have some iPads out. People can do it online, whatever they're more comfortable with. I mean, what do you think? Do you want to mail it out to everybody, a paper copy, or do we want to just encourage people to go online? I don't know. I really I know some people that would feel more comfortable being online and some that would just like the paper.
Well, how are we advertising the survey?
So we're gonna do it on Facebook. We're gonna send out a notice for the open house, and I'd like to just either put a QR code on there, that people can open and go do a survey, or if we wanna mail it out, we could put it in there. If it's a short survey, we could just fold it up and put it in there.
I know it's more labor intensive. I like having all the options, but I think we need to mail it, to be honest with you. That's just my gut, just says mail it.
With the open house?
I would just mail it to everybody and
Just
see.
mail it with the open house. It's gonna be like here's a newsletter about what's going on in Francis,
Yeah.
under these open houses. And
If it's 2
Do the
pages
survey.
front and back, like, here's the survey and you can take it, you know, if you'd rather take it online, here's the link, like
Yeah.
with a QR code, or fill this out, drop it off here, mail it back.
I think that's not too bad. You could probably do that.
That's just my gut.
We're already mailing something out to everybody, why not just throw that in there?
Yeah,
I just wonder how many people actually mail it back. Is that on me?
I
see
mean,
it. I see it, I look at it, I'll get to it
I think
later.
the QR code, like, strongly,
I'm
we
sure you can do that,
really
spell it
need
out.
your input, please take this online.
not-
Make it fire
Right
to
now.
easier,
Yeah.
to
get
that,
you
don't
They're
have
not
to
worried
worry
about
about that.
mailing it back.
And they don't have to worry about bringing it back, but you know what, there are so many people in the city that
Do.
every month they bring their water bill in, and like to come in and talk and drop it
Really?
off, oh yeah.
Well, I think if we just have an online option, we'll be excluding a lot of our older citizens.
That's
It's-
true.
And so, I mean, if we want to skew our
No,
data.
we don't, we want everybody.
No, I think both options.
Yeah.
Or
I think we can do both pretty easily.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, I mean, do we have like a target goal, like if we're not meeting it, that we can escalate? I mean, I don't personally wanna go knock doors,
Or
but
number
if
of
we,
responses.
but if we have to, like, is there, like, if we get 12 people and we're 3 weeks in, like, do we need to rally the troops? Like, what is our game plan? Do we need to put the read
I mean,
board
I
out
can
that
totally go
says,
door to door, I don't mind doing
that
that.
says save water and turn in your serveway? I mean, I'm only half kidding.
No, it's a good question, because
Are we gonna put signage on 32 that says turn in your survey, like,
and in
Real
some
estate
ways,
sign.
like, we don't hear back from you, we reached out to everybody and mailed something to everyone, and if you don't respond, then
So how many people, how many water bills do you send out?
it's like 550.
How many people are on wells in France?
No, they're not.
So we have like 500 households, like 550 households.
500 to 600, 500 to 600.
I've heard that 10% is like you're successful, so if we got
that's
50.
definitely not statistically relevant. I'm digging back a little bit, but yeah, you might be right. But I'm just putting it out there. I think we need to be prepared to escalate and blitz. I mean, whether that's sandwich board signs at the intersection or whatever it needs to be, but.
Yeah.
Cause I mean, we're gonna have to drive this to get the results. You're absolutely right. Like,
And I'd love to have
I'm gonna
a
best
couple
her.
of you be here at the open house and just have a table where we talk about just the survey. Like, have you seen the survey? If you wanna do it right now, here you go. If you wanna, yeah,
If you wanna just tell me what your opinion is, like,
sure.
Plus, if we had paper surveys there, I bet we could get a good number
Yeah.
going right then.
Is there anything we can advertise at schools
I don't,
that just says something about
I mean,
Francis
school's about
residents?
to be out and.
Yeah.
It is, but it's still, you got 2 weeks
Do we?
till
Yeah,
school's
we have a
out.
couple weeks.
It's after,
We have that long.
it's after Memorial.
I think it would be tough though, because so many people aren't Francis residents there.
They aren't, but
I mean,
just an option to get it out there, because I don't do social media, so I will not
you get
ever,
it at schools.
ever see the Facebook.
Yeah, I'm not on
Instagram.
Facebook at all either.
Okay.
So I know in the past, when, because I have kids that are in school, that was a good way for me to know. It's just another
That's
avenue.
good, that's
I
a
just-
good point, yeah, that's, maybe,
Or the rec center, or the grocery store, or
yeah.
something that just,
Even if we had like some postcards in those places, here's the QR code, sign, tell us what you think. I don't know. Maybe.
okay,
Yeah.
lots to think about.
Lots to think about there. All right, anything anyone else wants to talk about while we're talking about the general plan right now? What do we want to tackle next time? Is there anything with the general plan? I'm thinking maybe we'll just kind of look at where we are with our survey results, see how we're doing, maybe we evaluate if we need to do more outreach. We'll hopefully have been a couple weeks at that point. See if we need to do more outreach, make a
And then,
plan for that.
yeah, and then I think once we gather the information, we can really target it.
I think so. And that's kind of what, when I was going through this, I'm like, we really need the survey information before we can get into this too much. So, okay. Any other thoughts or anything on this general plan?
No, thank you for your hard work on
It's an undertaking.
it, cleaning up.
Yeah, we will make it good. Okay, so Rich, I think the last thing was just planner update, be quick.
All right, perfect. So then, I guess did we close our public hearing?
Open and close it.
Okay, perfect. So, and when you say, so for the planner update, do we need to have a public hearing for that? No. Okay, then let's move on to the planner update.
Okay, so I already told you that the council approved the code we looked at last time, and they'll look at this new one at their next meeting. We talked about the Wild Willow Park open house a little bit. Does anyone have any questions about the bike park?
Yeah, how long is the track? Is it like a mile, a half mile?
Scott, do you know, have you measured it?
The trail around the park
The perimeter trail?
is about a quarter of a mile, probably. But I don't know how the bike track, once that gets done, but the trail around the park is about a quarter of a mile.
Is the way into it fenced off?
There's a fence path that comes from the Hilltop subdivision, and then the section that comes off Wild Willow, Oak Lane will be fenced, and that's wider. And then the other entrance will be over off the Hilltop, and it'll just come off that Trevor Falls Road right there.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I don't think we found a fence in that. Really, so.
Yeah.
Because it's actually an easement.
Is there a sign though that says, hey, this is the entrance to a park?
There will be.
Eventually, yeah.
There'll be like park rules. Scott got some funding for us, grant funding, so we're gonna be able to pave a good portion of that perimeter trail. So it'll be more user friendly for like strollers, those kind of things.
Is there a gazebo, park benches?
There will be a gazebo with tables in it. There will be a pump track, this is the main bike feature. There's gonna be one for younger, like stride bikes, younger riders, and then one that's more intermediate. There's gonna be some skills sections, so like a little rock garden, bridges, maybe some wood features, just to get people familiar with what it's like riding on those kind of features.
Is there a drinking fountain?
Yeah, there's gonna be a restroom and a drinking fountain.
Okay.
And there's gonna be, originally we had planned bike features. It's kind of like, this park is kind of like two triangles together. We planned bike features in both of those triangles, but now the one that is to the east, the easternmost side, is gonna be, it's gonna be a nature play area, so I don't know if anyone's ever been to a natural playground, but there's like lots to jump on. And things like that, they're just more natural play. Kind of makes you feel like you're out in the woods a little bit, not really.
Rather than equipment.
Yeah, not the plastic equipment as much. Yeah. So,
Sounds fabulous.
I'm excited about it. I hope we get a good turnout for the open house. Both, you know, we have had some negative articles in the park record from the neighbors on the Summit Haven side. There's a kind of a group of them that aren't really wanting it. They feel like that's kind of their backyard. They're a little protective of it, but I get that. We've tried to change things to make it more community friendly. So hopefully the open house will be a positive thing, but I'm sure there will be some people that aren't too happy still. So, what do you do? I've heard positive and negative, so it's pretty much how it is for everything we do. So that's that, and then the city is building a new city hall, so
Where's that going?
it is gonna be right
Is that the-
here, right behind you. So right in that grass area in the front of the street will be the new city hall. We've been meeting with architects about it and planning it, and designing it, and there's gonna be an open house for that in July.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're growing up.
We're growing up out of our trailer.
It's gonna be done fast.
It is, like, if you see the grass dug up over there, they were doing some geotech, digging down, looking at what's underneath there and getting ready, so. It's coming, a lot of construction, a lot of projects around the city. We're getting a new playground right here at this park. That should be delivered in July. And we're making a whole bunch of improvements at the other part of that back by the arena. So there'll be some nicer things over there.
Like pickleball courts?
No, we actually looked at at doing some things like that, but we didn't have the room over there. But there will be 2 pickleball courts in Hart pretty soon. They're gonna get painted in the next couple weeks.
We could put them in where the trailer was.
Which trailer was that?
Where you're in
City
now,
Hall.
the city hall.
Oh, where right there.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be a parking lot, isn't it? Yeah, and actually I had someone call me, a commercial developer that wanted to, he was curious if we would allow like an indoor pickleball court facility. Yeah, we would actually allow that, so bring it. So maybe that will come.
That's got my idea.
Yeah, hurry and do it.
Hurry and do it.
Anyway, that's it for me.
All right.
Anybody else?
Shall we adjourn?
We need to make a motion to adjourn. A motion we adjourn.
I second that.
Do we need to vote?
No, not a roll call.
Perfect.
Thanks, everybody. Next time, I think we might be looking at a subdivision at Hidden Meadows final plat. We'll see. We'll see if they're ready or not.
How old are your kids?
My son is 15, so he's freshman, just finishing his